All right, welcome everyone to game two. What I end up sideboarding out is two Priest of Titanias and a Yavi Maya Granger, as well as a Masticore and a Biorhythm. Masticore's not really good because they don't really have a lot of creatures and they have Swords to Plowshares, so it's not super good. I take out Priest of Titania and one Yavi Maya Granger. What I really want to have in against Parfait are naturalizes and a null rod for sure. Null rod just takes out more than one thing at once. I can see potentially having a second collar of the claw in there as well. That's not how I boarded in that particular time, but I can see having the other collar of the claw as well, and potentially even an Uktabi, which I think I'd change. I wasn't really sure how to sideboard against this particular deck, as I didn't really see much. But I think I think what how I would probably play in the future. I'm not exactly sure because usually in my previous testing against Parfait, I never really had, but I wasn't really playing a version with Biorhythm in it. But since you have Biorhythm, I mean, Biorhythm's just really good, and you might be able to just win the game before they can even really interact with your deck. Usually they'll interact with your deck through something like Oath of Druids, but I'm almost just wondering if it's better to have just Biorhythm in. So I think I'm gonna have to do some testing against this matchup. I did extensive testing against Parfait over Christmas. I think I like played something like 50 matches against myself on Cockatrice, just constantly solitarying both decks, or which was very tiring. But anyway, um, I could see an argument for leaving in both biorhythms, leaving in the Priest of Titanias, but I just want the naturalize in, and something has to come out. Um, I do like anger, so that the hermits have haste. So it's just I like the wall of roots because if they have this survives the shard phoenix, it survives engineered plague, stuff like that, pyroclasm. So I guess my thinking, I was sort of thinking backwards, like in terms of their removal. Priest of Titania is very vulnerable. Given that they have Mox Diamond, they're going to probably be able to accelerate out things like Plasm like as early as they want. They're going to be able to accelerate out things like Engineered Plague before I even have the chance to really before I really have the chance to play something like biorhythm. So I think what I decide is I keep one biorhythm in, but I do take out a couple priests, just enough to have the naturalizes in. I'm not really a fan of Ravenous Baloth because if they have a Phantom Neshoba or something, this isn't really that impressive. Again, Genesis I'm not really a fan of because often they have the Tormod's Crypt, so I could see playing the other Color of the Claw and just getting rid of maybe something like a Meltani's Alkalite. Probably not, or maybe just a Priest. But or even just the other Biorhythm and play the second Collar of the Claw. That might just be better. But at this time, I guess I just wanted to see how Biorhythm might be post board. So, but definitely I could see the argument for having an Uktabi and Collar of the Claw. And I think actually in game three I do that differently. But anyway, that's the deck for this game. Let's get into the game. So again, I'm on the draw, and my opponent. What's going on? There we go. So I draw a null rod, which is good, and my opponent, I believe, mullions to 5. So again, in this situation, I'm pretty confident. However, you can easily see how a land tax effectively makes a multi 5 irrelevant. So here I play of course, turn 1 is pretty straightforward. And of course they have their land tax, which I guess I'm surprised they must have drew that. They must have top decked the land tax. So, or they wanted to wait till I played a land. Probably what they did was they wanted to wait till I played a land before they played the land tax, so that. Although I guess that doesn't really make sense because I'm still going to need to. I guess if I have a Quirion Ranger in hand, then technically I can always play around land tax. But maybe they just top decked it. I'm not 100% sure. I think you just play the land tax regardless, especially if you don't have a land yourself. I mean, Elves can't get by. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily know this, but unless you're an elf, if you play against elves a lot, but generally they do need like a couple lands down. You do want a couple lands down. So anyway, here I don't really have any options. There's basically two good options. It's the priest or the null rod. And the null rod, although it shuts them off Mox Diamond at this point, probably better is the Priest of Titania because they're already drawing lands, so to shut them off Mox Diamond for next turn at least isn't super exciting. I guess there's something to be said about, I guess they wouldn't be able to class them next turn, so it'd be more of a defensive play. So I could have technically gone, I guess, although no, because I have Cradle, I just do both. Never mind, sorry. But if I had to pick, I could see the argument for just playing the Null Rod in case they have Clasm. But yeah, that's probably actually like go Null Rod into so they can't Clasm me next turn. Well, this move is fine because then this way they can't Clasm me next turn, and you can even play a Wall of Roots or something. So. They only do run two Clasms in the sideboard usually, so putting them on that on a multi-5 is sort of loose. I think like sometimes you can't. I think just not play the game and not do anything because you're afraid of a Clasm. I think in a situation like this, I would almost just say play the Clasm. But it might have been better just to to hedge against that. I could have maybe gone there. I could have probably went Null Rod and instead Wall of Roots because then I'm hedged against Clasm and I'd still have enough mana without this to play the Deranged Hermit. So that's probably the better play because then in that case you're not necessarily worried about the like getting totally blown out to a Pyroclasm. So the correct play was probably to play the Wall of Roots and Null Rod there. Now in this case too, so here's the thing. I don't agree with getting another land because, well, I already had two lands in play. I guess getting another land out lets me, no it doesn't. So I guess no. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have gotten a land there because you're just, by having three lands in play, they're going to be able to land tax a lot. So I would almost say I could see the argument for not getting the third land in that case. It might have been better just to not have played the Wooded Foothills because and fetch there. I think I might have thought I could have played the Deranged Hermit. That's why. Oops. Yeah, mistakes happen sometimes. So yeah, I think that's what went wrong. But anyway, that's fine. That's why I like to do the recordings because hindsight's always 20/20 they say, and despite making some mistakes in the actual game, there's always lessons to be learned as well. I'm hoping in my future videos there's not a silly mistake like that's a pretty bad mistake to make honestly, but like. I was playing this game like late on a Friday night just for fun, and I just decided spur of the moment that I'm going to start making videos. This is like my second video, so this game is not one of my necessarily best games, but Um, I'm just hacking around, but that doesn't mean there's not important lessons to be learned, of course, from the replay. Despite some errors I'm not necessarily very proud to make, but anyway. So again, if I had not played the land, I would have been in the same position. Of course, I mean, none of this really matters because I guess my opponent would be stuck on 2 sources of mana. But again, just this game, I draw a deranged hermit, but it's really not that great here because I'm almost wondering if because deranged hermit just dies so hard to it's not good necessarily against the Triskelion. It's not good against the Shard Phoenix. Ravenous Baloth though is interesting because it really, I guess it would trade with the Trisk, which isn't that good, but at the same time, it doesn't die to Shard Phoenix, so that's probably what I should have done. I don't know though. I guess I'm playing deranged hermit because again, I still want to try to scoop up those games where my opponent drew to 5 if they didn't get the Oath of Druids out and just stumbled around for a bit. Like this deck stumbles a lot. Parfait stumbles a lot if because they have they can go without drawing Oath of Druids and they can draw all of the lands they want. Those aren't necessarily going to win in the game. They do have the Enlightened Tutor though, but they don't get it takes them a few turns with Enlightened Tutor, and then if they're down to low amount of life, sometimes that's fine. But it's not going to be enough. I attack with everything but the Hermit. I don't really care if he blocks the Elf here. I just want to deal as much damage as possible. So my opponent gets the Shard Phoenix out. Which, I mean, this might look like a bad position, but again, they have a low amount of life, so Sylvan Library is not particularly the best. I mean, it does let them. I mean, and at this point, their land tax is useless. So at this point, I wasn't necessarily sold that I was losing the game until they play Armageddon. That's another reason why you shouldn't play too many lands. Although I figured I figured you would board the Armageddon out against Elves. That's what I did in my play testing. It's just it's not as good as a lot of other things you could be playing, I feel, with this deck. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the Armageddon is good against Elves. I get a Wirewood Symbiote with the Oath of Druids, which isn't too impressive. I mean, obviously it would have been better to get something like Kamal. Because this is where I'm still pretty hopeful here. If I could Oath out something good, the game isn't over yet. And of course I do have the ability to play a survival of the fittest, so that's a thing. But my opponent also doesn't have that many mana, so here I should have blocked with the Wirewood Symbiote because obviously it's not very good when I could just get a random creature out. It could be a Kamal, and if I have Kamal out, unless they have a Swords, and it's a 1v1, it's well, I guess Kamal's not super good, but it's better than a 1/1 for sure. It's not super good if they're, at least it stops them from attacking, I guess, right? So I draw a Cradle, and I'm like, okay, now it's time to play the Survival. But I should have blocked, of course. I realized that this turn. Because again, I'm not really used to the Oath. It took me a while, again, to realize that at that particular time I should have blocked. So here I decide to block. So I block, and then I get to, and then they just swords their Trisk at this point, and I kind of realize it's kind of over because at this point, like, there's nothing really you can do. Like, there's nothing you can fetch. I'm not really, like, I guess I could have gotten. I can't even get him play a Vigilante because at least this turn. So I'm thinking next turn I can do that, but you know, I'm just hoping that I'm playing the wall, anticipating that they're going to have a Shard Phoenix. So this way, at least I have a creature for the cradle, and I can actually tutor something I can play to turn the game back around, like maybe something. And again, maybe the Masticore is good because it just survives, right? Like maybe it's good to have things that are survivable. But in this point, I can see the game because really, there's nothing to be done against the Phantom Nishoba at this stage. So, you know, if I had a Masticore in the deck still, it's possible actually, but they're just going to gain so much life, and I'm just like, you know, I just didn't feel there was any point in playing this game anymore. Maybe I gave up too soon, but I gave up at this point. But oh no. You know, I could try to draw Naturalize, but they're going to keep attacking me. I'm at 10 life, and it's just like I could block with the Wall of Roots a bit and stuff, but then it's like, you know, they're going to get another creature out, and then, you know, they can get Shard Phoenix. The Shard Phoenix is the only card probably left in their deck, so they're going to get the Phoenix out, and with the Phoenix down, I'm never going to be able to get my get a footing, so I just concede at this point. All right, see you in game 3.